Chapter 1. The overhead compartment exploded open with a violent crack that cut through the airplane's white noise like a gunshot. Maya Chen had exactly 1 second to register the horror, her overstuffed diaper bag tumbling through the air in slow motion, before it crashed down onto the head of the man sleeping beside her. The most devastatingly gorgeous man she'd ever laid eyes on. "Oh God, oh no, I'm so sorry." The words tumbled out as Maya fumbled with her seatbelt, her 6-month-old daughter Lily stirring in her lap. The bag had hit him square across the forehead, and now diapers, formula packets, and baby wipes scattered across his expensive charcoal suit like confetti from hell. The man's eyes snapped open. Maya's breath caught. Even dazed and probably concussed, he was stunning in a way that made her forget she was a sleep-deprived mess fleeing her life at 30,000 feet. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes the color of... Wait. Were his eyes supposed to be that color? That intense amber that seemed to catch the cabin's dim lighting like. "Are you hurt?" She reached toward his forehead where an angry red mark was already forming. "I can't believe my bag just..." His hand shot out and caught her wrist. Maya froze. His grip was firm but not painful, yet something about his touch sent electricity racing up her arm. But it was the heat that made her gasp. His skin was burning hot, fever hot, like touching the hood of a car that had been running too long. "I'm fine." His voice was rough, deeper than she'd expected, with an edge that made the fine hairs on her arms stand up. "You're not fine. You're burning up." Maya tried to pull her hand back, but he held on for just a moment too long. Long enough for her to notice that his breathing was too controlled, too careful. "Do you have a fever? Should I call the flight attendant?" "No." He released her and began gathering the scattered baby items with movements that were too precise, too measured. Like he was fighting to keep himself under control. "Just turbulence. These old planes." Maya knew turbulence. She'd been on dozens of flights as a travel nurse before Lily was born. This wasn't turbulence, this was something else entirely. She should have left it alone. Should have thanked him, taken her things, and minded her own business. She had enough problems without adding mysterious strangers to the list. Her ex-boyfriend Derek was probably discovering her empty apartment right about now, and she'd maxed out her credit card buying these last-minute tickets to Denver where her sister lived. The last thing she needed was to get involved with. Lily started crying. Not the gentle fussing that Maya had managed to keep under control for the first 2 hours of this red-eye flight, but the full-throated wailing that made every passenger within a 5-row radius start shooting dirty looks in her direction. "Shoo, baby girl, it's okay." Maya bounced Lily gently, but the crying only intensified. She was overtired, overstimulated, and Maya's stress was probably making it worse. She fumbled for a bottle in the diaper bag the stranger was still holding. "Here." He handed her the bottle, and their fingers brushed again. This time Maya was ready for the heat, but not for the way his touch seemed to calm something frantic inside her chest. She looked up, meeting those impossible amber eyes, and felt the world shift slightly off its axis. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once, sharp and controlled, but his gaze lingered on Lily. Something in his expression softened, just for a moment, before that careful mask slipped back into place. Maya managed to get the bottle into Lily's mouth, and blessed silence descended over their corner of the cabin. She closed her eyes and leaned back in her seat, exhaustion hitting her like a physical weight. When was the last time she'd slept for more than 2 hours straight? Before Derek's last tantrum, before the restraining order, before the threats about custody battles and lawyers she couldn't afford. She'd been running on adrenaline and desperation for weeks. Now, with Lily finally quiet and the steady hum of the engines, Maya felt herself starting to drift despite every instinct screaming at her to stay alert. Just for a minute. She'd just rest her eyes for a minute. Maya woke to the sound of growling. Not Lily, her daughter was still sleeping peacefully in her arms. The sound was coming from beside her, low and rumbling and definitely not human. She turned her head slowly, and her heart nearly stopped. The man, Dominic, she remembered him saying when she'd introduced herself, was gripping the armrest so tightly his knuckles had gone white. His jaw was clenched, tendons standing out in his neck, and that soft growling sound was coming from deep in his chest. His skin wasn't just hot anymore. It was radiating heat like a furnace, and she could actually see a fine sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the airplane's aggressive air conditioning. "Are you?" Maya started to whisper, but the plane chose that moment to drop. Not the gentle dip of normal turbulence, but a violent, stomach-lurching plunge that sent her pressing back into her seat. Lily woke with a startled cry, and around them other passengers gasped and clutched their armrests. The cabin lights flickered, and Dominic's eyes flashed amber. Not the warm brown gold she'd noticed before, but bright, glowing amber that cut through the dimness like headlights. For just an instant, less than a heartbeat, but Maya saw it. She knew she saw it. The plane leveled out with a shudder that ran through the entire aircraft. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, something about unexpected weather patterns and temporary altitude adjustments. Maya barely heard him. She was staring at Dominic Kane, her pulse hammering against her throat, because she'd just realized two things that made her blood run cold. 1, his eyes were back to normal now, that warm brown gold that could almost pass for human. Almost. And 2, during that entire violent drop, while every other passenger in the cabin had gasped or cried out or gripped their seats, Dominic hadn't made a sound. He just sat there, perfectly still, like he'd known exactly what was coming. Like he'd been waiting for it. Maya held Lily closer and wondered what the hell she'd gotten herself into. She'd thought she was running away from danger. She was starting to think she might have just sat down right next to it. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The plane hit the tarmac with a bone-jarring thud that would have sent Maya's stomach into her throat under normal circumstances. But nothing about the last hour had been normal, and right now she was more concerned with the man sitting rigidly beside her than their emergency landing. Dominic Kane hadn't moved since the captain announced they were diverting to Denver due to severe weather. He sat perfectly still, hands clenched in his lap, that strange heat radiating from his skin like he was running a fever of 105. Maya had worked enough hospital shifts to know that kind of temperature should have him unconscious, not sitting upright looking like a statue carved from granite. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Denver International Airport," the flight attendant's voice crackled over the intercom. "Due to the storm system, all passengers will need to deplane and..." The rest of the announcement faded into background noise as Maya watched Dominic's jaw tighten another impossible degree. A muscle ticked in his cheek, and she could swear she heard that low growling sound again, barely audible beneath the noise of engines winding down and passengers stirring to life. Lily fussed in her arms, picking up on the tension that seemed to crackle in the air between Maya and her mysterious seatmate. Maya shifted the baby to her shoulder, patting her back gently while keeping her eyes on Dominic. "Are you sure you're okay?" she whispered. "You look like you're in pain." Those amber eyes flicked to hers, and for a moment Maya felt like she was looking into the eyes of something wild. Something that was barely contained beneath the expensive suit and careful control. "I'll be fine once we're off this plane." His voice was rougher than before, strained. "The storm, confined spaces affect me badly." It was a lie. Maya had enough experience with liars. Derek had been a master class in deception, to recognize the careful way Dominic chose his words. But before she could push further, the seatbelt sign dinged off and passengers began gathering their belongings. "Here, let me help." Dominic stood smoothly, reaching for her diaper bag in the overhead compartment. The movement brought him close enough that Maya caught his scent, something clean and masculine with an edge of wildness that reminded her of pine forests and mountain air. Nothing like Derek's cloying cologne that always made her feel like she was suffocating. But it was the careful way he handed her the bag, making sure their fingers didn't touch, that made her pulse skip. Like he was afraid of what might happen if they had contact again. The deplaning process took forever with Lily's carrier and the diaper bag, but finally Maya found herself in the bustling chaos of Denver International. The terminal was packed with stranded travelers, flight delay announcements echoing overhead, and the general air of frustrated humanity that came with weather-related travel disruptions. She'd barely made it 10 steps from the gate when she heard the voice that made her blood turn to ice water. "Maya. There you are, sweetheart. I've been so worried." Derek Morrison stood 20 feet away, his bland, handsome face arranged in an expression of concern that might have fooled someone who didn't know him. But Maya knew that look. She'd seen it right before he'd put his fist through her bedroom wall. Right before he'd grabbed her wrist hard enough to leave bruises and told her she'd never be free of him. Her hands shook as she pulled Lily closer to her chest. "How did you?" She didn't finish the question. She already knew. He'd been tracking her phone, just like he tracked everything else in her life for the past 2 years. "I have a court order, Maya." Derek held up a folded document, his smile never wavering. But his eyes were cold, calculating. "Lily belongs with her father. You can't just run off with my daughter in the middle of the night like some kind of criminal." "She's not," Maya started, but Derek cut her off. "Not what?" "Not mine. We both know that's not true." He stepped closer, and Maya instinctively backed away. "I've been patient with you, sweetheart. Tried to give you space to work through your issues. But this running away, keeping me from my child? That stops now." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Derek wasn't Lily's father, he couldn't be. But he had money, connections, and a lawyer who specialized in making lies sound like truth. The kind of man who could forge documents and buy testimony and turn a protective mother into a kidnapper with the right legal maneuvering. She was trapped. No money for a lawyer, no family support system in Denver yet, and now Derek had found her before she could even. "Is there a problem here?" The voice was calm, controlled, but there was something underneath it that made the fine hairs on Maya's arms stand up. She turned to find Dominic Kane standing beside her, close enough that she could feel that strange heat radiating from his skin. He wasn't looking at her, though. His attention was fixed on Derek with the kind of predatory focus that made Maya think of documentaries about apex predators. Derek's practiced smile faltered slightly. "This is a private family matter. I don't believe we've been introduced." Dominic Kane. He didn't offer his hand, just stood there like a wall of barely restrained power. "Maya's husband." The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She stared up at Dominic in shock, but he kept his gaze locked on Derek, who had gone very still. "Husband?" Derek's voice was carefully neutral, but Maya caught the flash of something dangerous in his eyes. "That's interesting. Maya never mentioned being married when we were together last month. We reconciled recently." Dominic's arm came around Maya's waist, pulling her against his side. The contact sent electricity shooting through her nervous system, but more than that, it felt safe. Protected. Like standing in the shelter of something unbreakably strong. After she realized what kind of man you really are. Derek's face flushed red. "You have no idea what you're interfering with. That child is my daughter." Dominic's voice dropped to a tone that raised goosebumps along Maya's spine. "And if you have any legal documents claiming otherwise, I suggest you check them again. Very carefully." As if summoned by magic, 2 men in dark suits appeared on either side of Derek. Maya hadn't seen them approach, hadn't heard footsteps, but suddenly they were there. The kind of men who looked like they could break bones with their bare hands and sleep peacefully afterward. "Mr. Kane." The taller of the two handed Dominic a manila envelope. "The documents you requested." Dominic passed the envelope to Derek, who opened it with hands that weren't quite steady. Maya watched the color drain from his face as he read whatever was inside. "This is impossible," Derek whispered. "These can't be real. The birth certificate, the marriage license." He looked up at Maya with something like fear in his eyes. "You were never married. Lily isn't." "Isn't what?" Dominic stepped forward, and Derek actually stumbled backward. "Careful how you finish that sentence. My lawyers are very thorough, and my wife has been through enough stress lately. I won't tolerate any more harassment." Maya stared at the papers in Derek's shaking hands. She couldn't see what they said, but whatever was written there was convincing enough to make Derek look like he'd seen a ghost. Her mind raced, trying to process what was happening. Dominic Kane, a stranger she'd met 4 hours ago on an airplane, was claiming to be her husband and Lily's father, and he had legal documents to prove it. Documents that had appeared out of nowhere in the hands of security personnel who moved like military operatives. Who the hell was this man? This isn't over, Derek said finally, but the fight had gone out of his voice. He looked between Maya and Dominic with an expression she'd never seen before, something that looked almost like recognition. You have no idea what you're protecting, Kane. What she really is. I know exactly what she is. Dominic's voice carried a subtle warning that made the air around them seem to thicken. The question is, what are you? For a moment, Derek just stared at him. Then he laughed, but it wasn't the cruel sound Maya remembered. It was something colder, more calculating. Very good, Derek said softly. Most people don't see through the facade so quickly. You're not what I expected to find when I tracked her here. Derek, what are you talking about? Maya looked between the two men, confusion and growing alarm warring in her chest. There was subtext here she wasn't getting, some kind of communication happening beneath the surface that made her feel like she was watching a chess match where she didn't know the rules. Derek smiled then, and it was nothing like the expression she'd fallen for 2 years ago. This smile was sharp, predatory, and completely without warmth. Haven't you figured it out yet, sweetheart? Did you really think it was coincidence that I found you in that little hospital in Montana? That I happened to be attracted to a nobody nurse with no family and no connections? He shook his head, almost pitying. I'd been watching the Chin family for 3 years, ever since your grandmother died and left behind some very interesting belongings. Maya's blood went cold. My grandmother? What does she have to do with everything? Derek pulled something from his jacket, a small silver pendant that made Maya's breath catch. She recognized it. It had belonged to her grandmother, part of a collection of jewelry Maya had thought was lost when the estate was settled. Lily Chen was very careful about hiding what she was, but not careful enough. The old woman knew things, had connections to communities that most people don't even believe exist. He held up the pendant, and Maya saw symbols etched into the silver that seemed to shift and move in the terminal's fluorescent lighting. Protection charms, Derek continued conversationally. Very old ones, very powerful. The kind that werewolf families have been using for generations to hide their scent from hunters like me. The world tilted sideways. Maya heard the words, understood them individually, but together they made no sense. Werewolves. Hunters. Her grandmother, who'd raised her after her parents died, who'd made the best apple pie in 3 counties and taught Maya to knit and never mentioned anything more supernatural than the ghost stories she'd told on Halloween. You're insane, Maya whispered. Am I? Derek's gaze flicked to Dominic, who had gone very, very still beside her. Ask your new husband about that. Ask him why his skin runs hot enough to burn, why his eyes change color when he's angry, why the airline computers suddenly show a different passenger manifest than they did this morning. Maya looked up at Dominic, and her heart nearly stopped at what she saw in his face. Not denial. Not confusion. Guilt. Derek, she said slowly, her voice sounding strange and far away, what kind of hunter are you talking about? Derek's smile widened, showing too many teeth. The kind that kills monsters, sweetheart. The kind that's been tracking supernatural bloodlines for generations, making sure they don't spread their contamination to normal humans. He gestured toward Dominic. The kind that just found the biggest prize of all standing right next to the woman I'd been hunting for 2 years. Maya felt Lily shift in her arms, and suddenly her daughter's fussiness over the past few months made terrible sense. The way she always seemed to calm down around certain people, the way animals were drawn to her, the way she'd slept so peacefully against Dominic's supernatural heat. She's not his, Maya said quietly, the words falling into the terminal's noise like stones into still water. No, Derek agreed. But she's something else entirely, isn't she? Something that shouldn't exist. His hand moved to his jacket again, and Maya caught the outline of something that definitely wasn't a phone. Something that needs to be eliminated before she grows up and learns what she can do. Dominic moved so fast Maya didn't see him leave her side. 1 second he was standing next to her, the next Derek was pressed against a pillar 20 feet away with Dominic's hand around his throat. The terminal noise continued around them, announcements, conversations, the bustle of stranded travelers, but in their little corner, time seemed suspended. The 2 security men flanked them, blocking the scene from casual observers, and Maya realized this had been planned. Coordinated. Dominic Kane wasn't just some businessman who'd gotten caught up in her drama. He was something else entirely, something that had been waiting for Derek to reveal his true nature. "If you ever," Dominic said in a voice so quiet Maya had to strain to hear it, "come near my family again, I will tear you apart with my bare hands. And unlike you, I won't need weapons to do it." Derek gasped something that might have been words, and Dominic released him. Derek slumped against the pillar, rubbing his throat, but his eyes never left Dominic's face. "This isn't over," Derek wheezed. "The organization knows about you now. About her. You can't protect them forever. Watch me." Dominic turned back to Maya, and she saw that his eyes were definitely amber now, glowing with an inner light that had nothing to do with the terminal's fluorescent fixtures. He held out his hand to her, and Maya stared at it like it might bite her. Everything she'd thought she knew about her life, about herself, about her daughter, had just been turned upside down. Her ex-boyfriend was some kind of supernatural hunter. The man she'd met on an airplane was apparently not human. Her grandmother had been hiding secrets that had gotten Maya and Lily targeted by people who wanted them dead. And now Dominic Kane, Alpha, he'd called himself, whatever that meant, was asking her to trust him with their lives. Maya looked at Derek, still slumped against the pillar, then at the 2 security men who moved like predators in expensive suits. She thought about the legal documents that had materialized out of nowhere, about the way Dominic's presence made her feel both terrified and safer than she'd felt in years. She thought about Lily, sleeping peacefully in her arms despite the chaos around them, and made her choice. Maya took his hand. The moment their skin touched, heat raced up her arm and something deep in her chest clicked into place, like a lock finding its key. Dominic's eyes flashed brighter, and she heard that low rumbling sound again, but this time it didn't frighten her. This time, it sounded like coming home. "Good girl," Dominic murmured, his thumb brushing across her knuckles. "Now let's get you somewhere safe while I figure out how to explain the rest of this." As they walked away from Derek and toward the terminal exit, Maya caught a glimpse of their reflection in a shop window. They looked like a family, the businessman in his expensive suit, the tired young mother, the sleeping baby. Normal. Human. But Maya could feel the heat radiating from Dominic's skin, could see the careful way other people moved aside without quite knowing why, could sense something wild and dangerous prowling just beneath his controlled exterior. Normal was the last thing they were. And as terrifying as that thought was, Maya realized she was more afraid of going back to her old life than she was of discovering what came next. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The drive into the Colorado Rockies took 2 hours, winding through mountain passes that grew increasingly remote with each mile. Maya sat in the passenger seat of Dominic's sleek black SUV, Lily sleeping peacefully in her car seat behind them, and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 6 hours. Her ex-boyfriend was a supernatural hunter. Her mysterious airplane seatmate was apparently some kind of werewolf alpha with enough power to forge legal documents and make problems disappear. And she was apparently carrying around dormant supernatural genes inherited from the grandmother who'd raised her on bedtime stories and homemade cookies. It was insane. All of it. But as Maya watched Dominic's hands on the steering wheel, those long, elegant fingers that had felt like fire against her skin, she couldn't deny that insane was starting to feel like the only explanation that made sense. "You're very quiet," Dominic said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. His voice was carefully neutral, but Maya could hear the tension underneath. Like he was holding himself in check through sheer force of will. I'm trying to figure out if I'm having a nervous breakdown or if my life just became a supernatural thriller novel. Maya adjusted Lily's blanket, needing something normal to focus on. Honestly, the breakdown option is starting to look more appealing. A muscle ticked in Dominic's jaw. Maya, I know this is overwhelming. Overwhelming? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's what you call finding out your entire life has been a lie? That your grandmother was apparently married to a werewolf and never mentioned it? That your ex-boyfriend has been hunting you like some kind of animal? Elena never married into the pack, Dominic said quietly. She was born to it. And she was the strongest Luna we'd had in generations. Luna. The word sent a strange shiver down Maya's spine, like hearing a half-remembered song from childhood. What's a Luna? The alpha female. The heart of the pack. Dominic's knuckles tightened on the steering wheel. When she left, it nearly destroyed us. Maya stared at his profile, trying to reconcile this information with the woman who taught her to braid friendship bracelets and always kept peppermint candy in her purse. My grandmother Elena Chen was a human nurse who immigrated from Taiwan and married my grandfather. She was not some kind of werewolf queen. Elena Lee, Dominic corrected gently. Chen was her married name, after she left the pack and created a new identity. She was very good at hiding what she was. The bottom dropped out of Maya's stomach. She'd never known her grandmother's maiden name. Elena had always just been Grandma Elena, the woman who'd stepped in when Maya's parents died in a car accident when she was 8. The woman who'd been her whole world for 10 years until cancer took her too. Why? The word came out as barely a whisper. Why would she leave? Why would she hide? Dominic was quiet for so long that Maya thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, he said, because she was pregnant with a half-human child, and the pack couldn't accept it. Maya's mother. Her human father and werewolf mother, creating something that didn't fit neatly into either world. Something the pack had rejected. So she left to protect her daughter, Maya said, the pieces falling into place with terrible clarity. And raised her human. Yes. But werewolf genes don't disappear just because you ignore them. They skip generations sometimes, manifest differently, but they're always there. Dominic's amber eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Waiting. Before Maya could ask what that meant, they crested a hill and her breath caught. Dominic's house sprawled across the mountainside like something out of a fairy tale, if fairy tales involved fortress-like walls, security gates, and what looked like enough land to hide a small army. The main building was a stunning combination of modern glass and rustic stone that somehow managed to look both elegant and impregnable. Smaller buildings dotted the property, connected by covered walkways and surrounded by gardens that even in the late autumn twilight were clearly meticulously maintained. This is temporary? Maya asked weakly. Until we resolve your legal situation and neutralize the threat from Derek's organization. Dominic pulled up to the main entrance, where 2 men in dark clothing immediately approached the vehicle. My pack takes security very seriously. Pack. The word sent another one of those strange shivers through Maya's system. She watched as one of the men, tall, dark-haired, with the same unsettling amber eyes she'd noticed on Dominic, opened her door with a deferential nod. Luna, he said simply, and Maya's heart nearly stopped. I'm not, she started, but Dominic was already out of the SUV and lifting Lily's carrier from the back seat. Marcus, have Sarah prepare the Luna's suite. Make sure the nursery has everything a 6-month-old needs. Dominic's voice carried an authority that made both men straighten unconsciously. And I want a full security briefing in an hour. Yes, Alpha, Marcus replied, then turned to Maya with something that looked almost like reverence. Welcome home. Home. Maya followed Dominic up the stone steps, acutely aware of the way the other man's gaze tracked her movements. Not threatening, but intensely focused, like she was something precious that needed protecting. The interior of the house was even more impressive than the exterior, soaring ceilings, massive fireplaces, and windows that showcased the stunning mountain vista. But it was the people that made Maya's skin crawl with unease. They were everywhere. Men and women of various ages, all beautiful in that sharp-edged way that spoke of excellent genetics and careful breeding. All of them stopping whatever they were doing to watch Maya pass. And all of them, every single one, had those distinctive amber eyes. How many people live here? Maya asked as they climbed a sweeping staircase toward the second floor. The pack house holds about 30 full-time residents, Dominic replied. More during gathering times or when we're dealing with threats. 30 people, all living together like some kind of extended family. Maya had grown up in foster care after her grandmother died, bouncing between homes that never quite fit. The idea of belonging to something that large and permanent was both appealing and terrifying. Dominic led her down a hallway lined with oil paintings, mountain landscapes mostly, but a few portraits of severe-looking people with familiar amber eyes. He stopped at a door near the end of the hall and pushed it open. "Your rooms," he said simply. Maya stepped inside and nearly gasped. The suite was larger than her entire apartment back in Montana, with a sitting area, a bedroom visible through an archway, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the mountains. But it was the nursery, fully equipped with everything from a crib to a changing table to toys that would be age-appropriate for Lily in 6 months, that made her knees weak. "How did you?" She turned to stare at Dominic. "This is impossible. You couldn't have prepared all this in the few hours since we met." Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of something that might have been guilt. "Maya, there are things about your arrival here that I need to explain." "Dominic." A woman appeared in the doorway, tall and elegant with silver-streaked hair and the inevitable amber eyes. But there was something different about her, a softness that the others lacked. "Sarah Winters, the pack's den mother. I've prepared everything for the Luna and her pup." Den mother. Luna. Pup. The terminology washed over Maya like a foreign language she was somehow starting to understand. "Thank you, Sarah." Dominic's voice was carefully controlled, but Maya caught the tension in his shoulders. "Maya, I'll leave you to get settled. If you need anything." "I need answers." Maya set Lily's carrier down and faced him squarely. "Real ones this time. No more half-truths or mystical werewolf nonsense. I want to know exactly what's happening to me and my daughter." Dominic met her gaze, and for a moment Maya saw something raw and desperate in those amber depths. Like a man balancing on a knife's edge and fighting not to fall. "Tomorrow," he said finally. "After you've rested. After the moon sets." The moon. Maya glanced toward the windows, where the sky was deepening into true darkness. She couldn't see the moon from this angle, but something deep in her bones told her it was almost full. "The full moon affects you," she said, understanding flooding through her. "That's why you were so tense on the plane. Why you're fighting so hard to stay controlled now. Among other things." Dominic's smile was sharp and self-deprecating. "Your presence makes it challenging." Before Maya could ask what that meant, he was gone, leaving her alone with Sarah and a head full of questions that were multiplying by the minute. "He's fighting it harder than I've ever seen," Sarah said gently, moving to check on Lily, who was starting to stir. "The mate bond is strong, but so is his sense of honor. He won't claim you until you understand what it means." "Mate bond?" Maya's voice came out as a squeak. "What are you talking about?" Sarah looked at her with something that might have been pity. "Oh, child. You really don't know, do you? About what you are, about why you're here?" "I'm a human nurse from Montana whose life got turned upside down by supernatural politics," Maya said firmly. "That's all I am." "Is it?" Sarah moved to the windows, gazing out at the darkening sky. "Tell me, Maya, have you been having dreams lately? Dreams of running through forests, of hunting under the moonlight?" Maya's blood went cold. She had been having dreams, vivid, intense dreams that left her waking with her heart pounding and the taste of pine needles in her mouth. Dreams where she was running on 4 legs through mountain forests, part of something larger and wilder than herself. Dreams that felt more like memories than fantasies. "How did you know about that?" Maya whispered. "Because I had the same dreams when my abilities first started manifesting. Most of us do." Sarah turned back to her with a gentle smile. The wolf doesn't stay dormant forever, dear one. Especially not when she's found her mate. I'm not a werewolf, Maya said desperately. I'm human. I've always been human. Have you? Sarah moved to a bookshelf Maya hadn't noticed, pulling down a leather-bound photo album. Then perhaps you can explain these. She opened the album to a page near the middle, and Maya's world tilted sideways. The photograph was old, probably from the 1970s based on the clothing and hairstyles, but the image was clear enough. A young woman who looked exactly like Maya stood in the center of a group of people, all of them beautiful, all of them with amber eyes. The woman was laughing, her arm around a tall man who radiated the same kind of controlled power Maya recognized in Dominic. But it wasn't the resemblance that made Maya sink into the nearest chair with shaking legs. It was the fact that the woman in the photograph was surrounded by wolves. Actual wolves, sitting calmly at her feet like oversized dogs, looking up at her with obvious adoration. That's Elena, Sarah said softly. Your grandmother. The strongest Luna this pack has ever known. Maya stared at the photograph, her mind reeling. The woman looked so young, so happy, so completely at ease with the supernatural world around her. Nothing like the quiet, careful woman who'd raised Maya with bedtime stories and warm hugs and never once mentioned anything about werewolves or pack dynamics or supernatural abilities. She left when she was pregnant with your mother, Sarah continued, turning pages to show more photographs. Elena with the wolves, Elena in what looked like some kind of ceremony with the pack members bowing to her, Elena holding a baby that must have been Maya's mother. The pack wanted her to give up the child. Half-human pups were considered an abomination back then. Elena chose her daughter over her duty to the pack. So she left, Maya said numbly, still staring at the photographs. And never looked back. Oh, she looked back. Elena never stopped loving this place, never stopped missing her pack family. But she'd made her choice, and she stuck to it. Sarah's voice was warm with affection. She was stubborn that way. I see where you get it from. Maya turned the page and found more recent photographs. Elena as Maya remembered her, older and more careworn but still recognizably the same woman. Except in these pictures, she wasn't alone. She was with other people Maya didn't recognize, people with the telltale amber eyes, meeting in what looked like secret gatherings. She stayed in contact, Maya breathed. All those years, she was still connected to this world. She was keeping watch. Making sure the pack was safe, that the hunters weren't getting too close. And she was watching you and your mother, making sure the dormant genes stayed dormant. Sarah closed the album gently. Until Derek Morrison started sniffing around, asking questions about the Chin family. Then Elena got worried. She died before she could warn me. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. I had no idea any of this existed. She left things for you, though. Instructions. Protections. Sarah moved to a desk in the corner, pulling out a manila envelope. And a letter explaining everything she couldn't tell you while she was alive. Maya took the envelope with trembling hands. Her name was written on the front in her grandmother's familiar handwriting, along with a note, only open when you find your way home. Home. That word again, carrying weight Maya was only beginning to understand. Before she could open the envelope, Lily started crying, not her usual fussy sounds, but sharp, distressed wails that made Maya's maternal instincts flare to life. What's wrong with her? Maya rushed to the carrier, lifting Lily out and immediately noticing how hot her daughter felt. Not fever hot like Dominic, but warmer than normal. She's burning up. Sarah moved to them quickly, placing a gentle hand on Lily's forehead. The baby's cries immediately quieted, and she looked up at Sarah with wide, curious eyes. Eyes that, in the lamplight, looked distinctly amber. Oh my, Sarah breathed. She's manifesting early. Much earlier than usual. Manifesting what? Maya's voice was sharp with fear. Her abilities. Most werewolf children don't show signs until they're at least walking, but Lily. Sarah smiled down at the baby, who was now cooing happily and reaching for her face with tiny hands. She's special. The child of two bloodlines, human and werewolf. She's going to be incredibly powerful. Maya sank into the rocking chair near the window, holding Lily close. Her daughter's amber eyes, unmistakably amber now, gazed up at her with an intelligence that seemed far too advanced for 6 months. "This is why Derek was really after us," Maya said quietly. "Not because of some abusive obsession. Because of what she is. What she is, what you are, and what you represent to the supernatural community." Sarah's expression grew serious. A new generation of werewolves with human reasoning and wolf instincts. Some see it as evolution. Others see it as an abomination that needs to be destroyed. A howl echoed through the mountains, long and mournful and definitely not human. Maya looked toward the windows, where the full moon was finally visible rising over the peaks. More howls answered the first, creating a haunting chorus that seemed to come from all directions. Maya should have been frightened. Should have been planning her escape from this place full of predators and supernatural politics. Instead, something deep in her chest responded to the sound with recognition and longing. Like hearing a song she'd forgotten she knew. "That's the pack," Sarah said softly. "Calling to their alpha. The full moon makes the change mandatory for most of us. And Dominic? Is fighting it with everything he has because his mate is here and unbonded, and his wolf wants to claim you properly." Sarah's smile was sad. "But he can't hold out much longer. The moon is too strong, and you're too close." Another howl, closer this time, and Maya felt Lily stir in her arms. Her daughter's eyes were definitely glowing now, amber light that pulsed in rhythm with the distant howling. "What do I do?" Maya asked desperately. "I don't understand any of this. I don't know how to be what you all think I am." "You start by reading your grandmother's letter," Sarah said gently. "And then you decide whether you're going to run from what you are, or embrace it." She moved toward the door, pausing to look back at Maya. "For what it's worth, dear one, Elena always believed you'd be stronger than she was. That you'd find a way to bridge both worlds instead of having to choose between them." Then she was gone, leaving Maya alone with her glowing-eyed daughter and her grandmother's final secrets. Outside, the howling continued, wild and free and heartbreakingly beautiful. Maya looked down at Lily, who was watching the moon through the window with obvious fascination, and felt something shift inside her chest. Something that had been sleeping was starting to wake up, responding to the call of the pack and the pull of the moon. She wasn't human. Had never been fully human, despite what she believed her entire life. The question was, what was she going to do about it? Maya settled Lily in her crib and opened her grandmother's envelope with shaking hands. Whatever was in that letter was going to change everything, and she wasn't sure she was ready for any more revelations. But as another howl echoed through the mountains, deeper, more commanding than the others, and definitely coming from somewhere inside the house, Maya realized, ready or not, her old life was over. It was time to discover what came next. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. Maya's hands shook as she unfolded her grandmother's letter, the aged paper crackling in the silence of her room. Outside, the howling had intensified, creating a symphony of wild voices that seemed to call to something deep in her bones. Lily slept peacefully in her crib, but even in sleep, her amber eyes glowed softly beneath her closed lids. "My dearest Maya," the letter began in Elena's familiar handwriting. "If you are reading this, then you have found your way home at last, and the time for secrets has ended." Maya sank into the rocking chair by the window, the moon casting silver light across the pages as she read. "I have carried the weight of my choices for 30 years, choices that kept you safe but cost you the truth of what you are. You were never meant to live as only human, my brave girl. The wolf in you has been sleeping, waiting for the right time, the right catalyst to awaken. But there are things you must know before you embrace your heritage. Dangers I could not speak of while I lived, truths that would have put you at greater risk had they been discovered too soon. A sound from the hallway made Maya look up. Heavy footsteps, moving with purpose. She folded the letter carefully and tucked it into her pocket. She would finish it later, when she could process whatever other revelations it contained. A soft knock at her door made her heart jump. "Come in." Dominic entered, and Maya's breath caught. He'd changed out of his expensive suit into dark jeans and a simple black sweater, but it wasn't the casual clothing that made her stare. It was the barely leashed power radiating from him like heat waves, the way his amber eyes seemed to glow with their own inner fire. "The ceremony is about to begin," he said, his voice rougher than usual. "I wanted to give you the choice of whether to attend." "What kind of ceremony?" Maya stood slowly, hyper-aware of the way his gaze tracked her movements. "The full moon gathering. When the pack comes together to honor the moon and run free." Dominic's hands clenched at his sides. "I had planned to present you to the pack tonight, to formally announce our bond. But given everything that's happened today..." "Present me?" Maya felt heat flare in her cheeks. "Like some kind of prize?" "Like my mate," Dominic said quietly. "Like the Luna this pack has been waiting for since Elena left." The word mate sent another one of those electric shivers through Maya's system. She could feel something stirring in response to his presence, something wild and wanting that had nothing to do with logic or caution. "I don't know what I am yet," she said honestly. "I don't know if I can be what you need." Dominic stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his skin. "You're already what I need. What we all need. The question is whether you'll let yourself accept it." Before Maya could respond, the door burst open and Marcus stumbled in, his face pale and blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "Alpha," he gasped. "We're under attack. Hunters, at least a dozen of them, moving through the perimeter. They knew exactly where our defenses were weak." Dominic went deadly still. "How is that possible?" Maya's heart dropped as she saw the guilt flash across Marcus's face. The truth hit her like a physical blow. "You," she whispered. "You told them." Marcus's amber eyes met hers with something that might have been regret. "I'm sorry, Luna. But you have no idea what you really are, what kind of danger you represent. The hunters offered a way to end this peacefully." "Peacefully?" Dominic's voice dropped to a growl that raised the hair on Maya's arms. "By murdering innocents? By containing the threat before it spreads." Marcus straightened, and Maya saw the resolve harden in his expression. "She's the moon's daughter, Dominic. The prophecy is superstitious nonsense," Dominic snarled, but Maya caught the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Before anyone could explain what a moon's daughter was, gunshots echoed from somewhere in the house. Not the sharp crack of hunting rifles, but the distinctive pop of tranquilizer guns. "They're not here to kill," Marcus said quickly. "Just to subdue and capture." Dominic moved faster than Maya thought possible, crossing the room and slamming Marcus against the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. "You betrayed your pack. Your family." "I saved them," Marcus gasped. "You have no idea what she'll become if she fully awakens. What her daughter will become." A new voice cut through the confrontation, cold and familiar. "He's right about that." Derek Morrison stepped into the room, flanked by two men in tactical gear carrying strange-looking weapons. But it was the silver collar in Derek's hands that made Maya's blood turn to ice water. "Hello, sweetheart," Derek said with that same fake smile she remembered. "Miss me?" Dominic released Marcus and spun toward the door, but the two tactical operatives already had their weapons trained on him. Maya caught a glimpse of silver-tipped darts loaded in the guns and understood, whatever was in those darts would be lethal to werewolves. "How touching," Derek continued, stepping further into the room. "The great Alpha Cain, brought low by a woman who doesn't even know what she is." His gaze flicked to Maya, and she saw something hungry and calculating in his expression. "Though that's about to change, isn't it, sweetheart?" "Stay away from her," Dominic warned, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he was calculating odds and finding them wanting. "Or what? You'll shift and tear my throat out?" Derek laughed. "Go ahead. The moment you change, my men will put enough silver in you to drop an entire pack. And then who will protect your precious maid and her daughter? Lily. Maya's gaze snapped to the crib where her daughter was starting to stir, making small fussing sounds that would soon turn to cries. That's right, Derek said, following her gaze. Lily's the real prize here. Do you want to know the truth about your daughter, Maya? The truth your grandmother died protecting? Elena died of cancer, Maya said automatically, but even as she spoke, she knew it was a lie. Her grandmother had been sick, yes, but the decline had been so sudden, so brutal. Elena died because she was trying to reclaim what was rightfully hers, Derek said conversationally. Trying to bring you and the baby back to the pack where you belonged. I couldn't let that happen. The room seemed to tilt sideways. You killed her. I introduced a little silver into her drip during one of her chemotherapy sessions. Looked like complications from treatment. Very sad, very believable. Derek's smile widened. She lasted longer than I expected, actually. Strong bloodline. But not strong enough. Rage exploded through Maya's system like wildfire. Not the careful, controlled anger she'd learned to manage during her relationship with Derek, but something primal and devastating that came from a place she'd never known existed. The air in the room seemed to thicken, and Maya heard a sound like rushing wind that was coming from inside her own chest. Careful, sweetheart, Derek warned. You might not want to lose control right now. Not with so many innocent people in the line of fire. Let them go, Maya said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded despite the chaos building inside her. Your fight is with me, not them. Actually, my fight is with what you represent. What you'll become if we don't stop you. Derek pulled something from his jacket, a syringe filled with clear liquid. Do you know what you've been taking for the past 2 years? Those prenatal vitamins I insisted on, the supplements for postpartum recovery? Maya's stomach dropped. What did you do to me? Silver nanoparticles, suspended in a glucose solution. Just enough to keep your wolf suppressed without killing you outright. Took me months to get the dosage right. Derek's expression was almost proud. Your grandmother figured it out eventually. That's when she started trying to contact the pack, trying to warn them. That's when I knew it was time to eliminate her. The rage building in Maya's chest was becoming unbearable, like a pressure cooker about to explode. She could feel something clawing at the inside of her skin, something that wanted out with desperate urgency. The problem is, Derek continued, the silver is wearing off. Your wolf is waking up, and when she does. He gestured to his tactical team. Well, we'll be ready. You're insane, Maya whispered. I'm a professional. Do you want to know why Lily is so important? Why she's worth all this trouble? Derek moved toward the crib, and Maya felt every muscle in her body coil with the need to protect her daughter. She's not actually yours. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. That's impossible. Is it? Think about it. The pregnancy you don't remember, the delivery that happened so fast you barely made it to the hospital. The way the baby took to you so easily, like she already knew you. Derek was almost to the crib now, and Lily was starting to cry in earnest. Elena hid her away when she was born, gave her to you to raise because she knew I was closing in. Lily is Elena's daughter, Maya. Your aunt, not your child. No. But even as Maya denied it, pieces were falling into place. The way Lily had always seemed too advanced for her age, too aware. The way she calmed around certain people and grew agitated around others. The amber eyes that had started glowing weeks before Maya had ever heard the word werewolf. She's the last pureblood Luna born to the most powerful pack bloodline in North America, Derek said, reaching into the crib. And according to a very old treaty, whoever controls the Luna controls the supernatural community. Lily's cries turned to screams as Derek's hands touched her, and something inside Maya snapped. The change hit her like lightning, violent and instantaneous and completely beyond her control. Pain exploded through her bones as they lengthened and reshaped, her vision sharpening to impossible clarity as her human form dissolved into something larger, stronger, infinitely more dangerous. But it wasn't the usual brown or black wolf form she'd seen in nature documentaries. Maya's wolf was silver white, gleaming like moonlight on snow, with eyes that burned like stars. The room erupted into chaos. Dominic roared and began his own transformation, his clothes shredding as his human form gave way to a massive black wolf. The tactical operatives fired their weapons, but Maya was already moving, faster than thought, driven by an instinct older than civilization. She hit Derek with enough force to send him flying across the room, away from Lily's crib. Her jaws snapped inches from his throat, and she saw real fear flicker in his eyes for the first time. The moon's daughter, Marcus breathed from where he was pressed against the wall. It's true. Maya didn't know what that meant, but she could feel power flooding through her like electricity. Not just the enhanced strength and speed of her wolf form, but something else. Something that made the very air around her shimmer with energy. More gunshots from the hallway told her the attack was spreading through the house. Her pack, when had she started thinking of them as her pack, was under siege because of her. Because of what she was. Derek rolled to his feet, blood trickling from claw marks on his shoulder. You have no idea what you've just unleashed, he snarled. The prophecy speaks of the moon's daughter bringing either unity or destruction to the supernatural world. Guess which one the hunters are betting on? Maya's wolf snarled, a sound that seemed to shake the windows. She could smell fear on Derek now, sharp and acidic, but also something else. Determination. He wasn't backing down. Capture the child, Derek barked to his operatives. We can deal with the wolf later. One of the tactical men moved toward Lily's crib, and Maya felt something inside her explode outward. Light, silver white and brilliant, filled the room like a flashbang grenade. When it faded, the operative was unconscious on the floor, and every piece of silver in the room, Derek's collar, the darts in the weapons, even the fillings in Marcus's teeth, was glowing red-hot. Impossible, Derek whispered. But Maya was already moving again, driven by an instinct that was part wolf, part mother, and part something else entirely. She placed herself between the crib and Derek's remaining operative, her silver fur bristling with power that made the air itself seem to hum. Behind her, she could hear Lily's cries changing pitch, becoming something that wasn't quite human. Her daughter, aunt, whatever their relationship was responding to the chaos, to Maya's transformation, to the presence of her awakened power. Dominic's black wolf appeared beside her, massive and intimidating, but Maya could see the awe in his amber eyes as he looked at her silver form. She was something he'd never seen before, something his pack had only heard about in legends. Stand down, Derek ordered his remaining operative, raising a hand. We're leaving. Like hell you are, Maya tried to say, but it came out as a growl that seemed to shake the foundations of the house. Oh, we'll be back, Derek promised, backing toward the door. This was just reconnaissance. Now we know what we're dealing with. His gaze fixed on Maya's glowing silver form. The Council of Hunters has been preparing for the moon's daughter for 300 years. Did you really think we didn't have contingencies? Before anyone could stop him, Derek pulled something from his belt, a small device that beeped once before releasing a cloud of silver dust into the air. Maya felt the particles hit her skin like acid, burning through her supernatural senses and making her stumble. Around her, she could hear Dominic and the other pack members choking and gasping as the silver overwhelmed their enhanced abilities. Through the haze of pain and confusion, Maya saw Derek grab something from Lily's crib, not the baby, but something small and metallic that had been hidden beneath the mattress. Give my regards to Elena, Derek called out as he disappeared through the door with his operative. Oh wait, you can't. I already killed her. Then they were gone, leaving Maya to collapse back into her human form, naked and shaking and more confused than ever. Dominic shifted back to human as well, moving immediately to check on her despite his own obvious pain from the silver exposure. Maya, are you hurt? I'm fine, she gasped, though that was clearly a lie. Her entire body felt like it had been turned inside out and reassembled incorrectly. Lily. She's safe. Sarah appeared in the doorway, rushing to the crib to lift out the crying baby. Shaken but unharmed. Maya struggled to her feet, accepting the robe someone pressed into her hands. What did he take? What was hidden in her crib? Sarah's face went pale. The Luna's seal. The ceremonial marker of Elena's bloodline. She looked down at Lily, whose amber eyes were now glowing so brightly they cast shadows on the walls. Without it, we can't prove Lily's claim to the bloodline. Can't protect her under pack law. And with it, Marcus said quietly from where he was still slumped against the wall, Derek can present false evidence to the Council of Hunters. Make them believe he has legitimate claim to control her. Maya felt the world tilting sideways again. In the space of one night, she discovered she was a werewolf, watched her mate's trusted beta betray them all, learned that her grandmother had been murdered, and found out that the daughter she'd raised and loved wasn't biologically hers. And now Derek had stolen the one thing that could protect Lily from whatever the hunters had planned. The prophecy, Maya said, looking at Dominic. What did Marcus mean about the moon's daughter? What am I supposed to become? Dominic's expression was grim. According to legend, the moon's daughter appears once every 3 centuries. She has the power to unite all supernatural beings under one rule, or to destroy them entirely. He gestured to the scorch marks on the walls where her power had manifested. The choice is hers to make. Maya looked down at Lily, still glowing softly in Sarah's arms, and felt the weight of impossible decisions settling on her shoulders. She was a werewolf who'd never known her true nature. A mother who'd just learned her child wasn't her child. A woman whose entire life had been built on lies and manipulation. But she was also something else now. Something powerful enough to make hardened hunters retreat and ancient betrayers tremble. The question was, what was she going to do about it? Outside, the full moon hung heavy in the sky, and Maya could feel its pull in her bones like a tide that couldn't be ignored. Her pack was wounded, her daughter was in danger, and somewhere out there, Derek Morrison was planning his next move. Maya touched her grandmother's letter in her pocket and made her choice. It was time to stop running from what she was, and start fighting for what she could become. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The blood moon hung in the sky like an omen, its crimson light casting everything in shades of copper and shadow. Maya stood at the edge of the pack compound's main terrace, her grandmother's letter finally read and understood, watching the lunar eclipse begin its slow progression across the face of the moon. When the moon bleeds, Elena had written, the barriers between worlds grow thin. Power flows like water, and those who would abuse it become desperate. Watch for the eclipse, my brave girl. That's when they'll make their final move. 3 days had passed since the attack, 3 days of frantic preparation and growing dread. Derek had vanished like smoke, taking Marcus and the Luna's seal with him. But Maya knew he hadn't gone far. The eclipse would amplify supernatural power exponentially, and if Derek truly intended to bind all supernatural beings to hunter control, tonight would be his only chance. The perimeter teams are in position, Dominic said, appearing beside her with that silent grace that still made her pulse skip. In the crimson moonlight, his amber eyes looked like molten gold. Every approach to the compound is covered. Maya nodded, but kept her gaze fixed on the darkening moon. Since her transformation, she could feel things differently, the pulse of power through the earth, the whisper of wind that carried information about movement miles away, the collective heartbeat of her pack spread throughout the mountains. Her pack. Even now, the phrase felt strange. A week ago, she'd been a single mother fleeing an abusive relationship. Now she was something out of legend, a silver wolf whose very existence had been prophesied for centuries. Maya. Dominic's voice was gentle, but she could hear the concern underneath. The silver poisoning is getting worse. I can smell it on you. She finally turned to look at him, this man who had claimed her as his mate before she'd even understood what that meant. The past 3 days had been a crash course in werewolf politics, pack dynamics, and the terrible weight of destiny. But through it all, Dominic had been her anchor, patient, protective, and utterly devoted in a way that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. How long? She asked quietly. His jaw tightened. Sarah estimates weeks, maybe a month. The silver has been in your system too long. It's attacking your organs now. Maya had suspected as much. She'd been feeling weaker each day, her supernatural senses growing dimmer despite the approaching eclipse. The silver Derek had been feeding her for 2 years was slowly killing her from the inside out. There is another option, Dominic said carefully. The full Alpha Luna transformation. Maya had read about it in the pack archives, a ritual that would bind her permanently to Dominic and grant her access to his alpha power. It would cure the poisoning. But it would also mean giving up any chance of returning to a human life, Dominic finished. I won't ask that of you, Maya. The choice has to be yours. Before Maya could respond, a howl echoed across the mountains, not the familiar voices of her pack, but something cold and wrong that made her skin crawl. Hunters, she breathed, recognizing the artificial tone of their call. But that's not possible. They can't mimic. They can if they have a pack member helping them, Dominic snarled, his form already beginning to shift. Marcus. More howls answered the first, coming from multiple directions. Too many directions. Maya's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of vehicles, boots on stone, the distinctive whine of silver-loaded weapons being charged. It's a coordinated assault, she realized. They're not just coming for Lily. They're coming for everyone. Sarah burst through the terrace doors, Lily clutched protectively in her arms. The baby's amber eyes were glowing so brightly they cast shadows, and she was making soft keening sounds that raised every protective instinct Maya possessed. They've breached the north wall, Sarah gasped. At least 30 hunters, all in full tactical gear. And Maya. Her face was pale with shock. I saw Marcus leading them. But he's changed. He's not just a werewolf anymore. What do you mean? Dominic demanded. He's been enhanced. Silver cybernetics, artificial armor plating. They've turned him into some kind of hunter-werewolf hybrid. Sarah's voice shook. I've never seen anything like it. Maya felt ice water flood her veins. A werewolf with silver enhancements would be immune to most pack defenses, able to stand against alpha power without being overwhelmed. And if Marcus knew all their security protocols, their escape routes, their weaknesses. Where's the safest place in the compound? Maya asked. The ceremonial chamber, Dominic replied immediately. Underground, warded against both physical and supernatural attack. But get everyone there. Now. Maya's voice carried a note of command that surprised them all. This isn't random. Derek is using the eclipse to perform his ritual, and he needs Lily's bloodline to complete it. He'll come for her directly. Maya, you can't face them alone, Dominic protested. I won't be alone. She met his gaze, seeing her own determination reflected in his amber eyes. I'll have my mate with me. The words sent heat racing through both of them, the mate bond that had been building since their first touch on the airplane finally acknowledged and accepted. Maya felt Dominic's power flow into her, strengthening her against the silver poisoning, and she saw his expression soften with wonder. Now and always, he said simply. Before either of them could say more, the night erupted into chaos. Explosions rocked the compound as hunter teams breached multiple entry points simultaneously. Silver-bright flashes lit up the darkness, followed by the distinctive howls of pack members under attack. Maya's enhanced senses were immediately overwhelmed by the sense of blood, fear, and burning silver. The ceremonial chamber, Dominic ordered Sarah. Take Lily and get the others to safety. But even as Sarah turned to obey, a new voice cut through the noise, amplified by some kind of electronic device and carrying clearly across the entire compound. Maya Chen, Derek Morrison's voice echoed from hidden speakers. You have something that belongs to me. Come to the central courtyard and we can discuss terms. Refuse, and I start executing your pack members one by one. To emphasize his point, a scream echoed from somewhere in the compound, high, agonized, and definitely human. He's bluffing, Dominic said, but Maya could hear the uncertainty in his voice. No, Maya replied, her enhanced hearing picking up more sounds of struggle from multiple directions. He's not. This isn't just about the ritual anymore. He wants to destroy the pack entirely. She could feel her wolf rising, responding to the threat against her family. Because that's what they were now, pack, family, the people she would die to protect. The silver poisoning might be killing her slowly, but it wouldn't stop her from fighting for them tonight. I'm going, she said, moving toward the terrace edge. Then I'm going with you, Dominic replied immediately. Dom, no. If something happens to both of us, nothing will happen to us. His hands cupped her face, amber eyes blazing with fierce determination. We're stronger together, Maya. That's what the mate bond means. Your power and mine, combined. Before Maya could argue, Sarah cried out behind them. They spun to see Marcus climbing over the terrace railing, his form a nightmarish combination of werewolf and machine. Silver plating covered his arms and chest, and his amber eyes had been replaced with artificial sensors that glowed red in the eclipse light. Hello, Luna, he said, his voice distorted by whatever technology they'd used to transform him. Time to come home. Dominic launched himself at Marcus without hesitation, his partial transformation making him larger and stronger than any normal human. But Marcus was ready for him, silver-enhanced claws meeting werewolf strength in a collision that sent both males tumbling across the terrace. Maya started toward them, but Sarah's scream made her whip around. 3 more hunters had appeared from inside the house, all of them focused on Lily with an intensity that made Maya's blood burn. The choice crystallized with brutal clarity. She could help Dominic fight Marcus, or she could protect Lily from the hunters closing in. But she couldn't do both. Maya, go. Dominic shouted, locked in brutal combat with his enhanced former beta. Protect her. Maya's wolf surged to the surface, and this time she didn't fight the transformation. Silver light exploded around her as she shifted, her enhanced form blazing like a star in the crimson moonlight. The hunters raised their weapons, but Maya was already moving, faster than thought, driven by love and desperation and the terrible knowledge that she might be about to lose everything that mattered. She hit the first hunter with enough force to send him flying over the terrace railing. The second managed to fire his weapon, but the silver dart passed harmlessly through the space where Maya had been a split second before. Her jaws closed around his wrist, and she heard bones snap as his weapon clattered to the ground. The third hunter had reached Sarah and Lily, but instead of grabbing the baby, he did something unexpected. He pressed a silver collar around Sarah's throat, and the older woman immediately collapsed, unconscious but breathing. Stand down, Luna, the hunter said calmly, or the den mother dies. Maya froze, her silver form bristling with frustrated energy. Behind her, she could hear Dominic and Marcus still fighting, the sound of claws on metal and the crash of bodies hitting stone. Around the compound, the battle continued to rage. But here, in this moment, everything had crystallized to a single, impossible choice. That's better, the hunter continued. He was older than the others, with silver hair and cold eyes that held no fear of her supernatural form. My name is Morrison. I believe you know my son. Derek's father. Maya felt understanding crash over her like a wave. This wasn't just about the ritual or even about controlling supernatural beings. This was family business, stretching back generations. Marcus isn't a traitor, Morrison continued conversationally. He's my nephew. The Morrison family has been placing agents in packs for over a century, waiting for the right moment to strike. Maya's growl seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. Oh, save your anger, Luna. You'll need it for what comes next. Morrison pulled out a device that looked like a modified tablet, its screen showing some kind of complex ritual circle. The eclipse is reaching totality. Time for the binding ceremony. But before he could do whatever he had planned, Lily began to cry. Not her usual infant sounds, but something deeper, more primal. The baby's amber eyes blazed with power that seemed to respond to the eclipse, and suddenly every piece of silver in 100-yard radius began to glow white-hot. Morrison cursed and dropped his device, shaking fingers that were already blistering from contact with his silver watch. Around the compound, Maya could hear similar cries of pain and confusion as hunter weapons became too hot to hold. Impossible, Morrison breathed. She's just an infant. But Maya understood. Lily wasn't just Elena's daughter, she was something more. The eclipse was amplifying her latent abilities, turning her into a supernatural force that could affect the very elements the hunters depended on. Maya shifted back to human form, accepting the robe that Sarah weakly offered despite the silver collar around her throat. She's not just a Luna, Maya said, moving slowly toward Morrison. She's the daughter of the most powerful Luna bloodline in existence, born during a lunar eclipse and raised by the moon's daughter herself. Did you really think you could control that kind of power? Morrison's face had gone pale. The ritual will contain her. Bind her abilities to our will. No, said a new voice from the terrace entrance. It won't. Maya spun to see a figure emerging from the shadows, an older woman with silver-streaked hair and familiar amber eyes. She was thin, clearly weakened by years of captivity, but her presence seemed to fill the space with quiet authority. Elena, Maya whispered. Her grandmother smiled, and Maya saw tears in her eyes. Hello, brave girl. I told you that letter would find you when you needed it most. But you're dead. Derek said. Derek said many things that weren't true. Elena moved slowly but steadily toward Morrison, who was backing away with growing panic. Including the part about killing me. Hard to kill someone when you need their blood to track their granddaughter. Maya felt the world shift around her as understanding dawned. He's been using you. All this time, he's been keeping you prisoner. Blood calls to blood, Elena said softly. Especially Luna blood. Derek has been using mine to track your movements for years, waiting for your wolf to awaken. She looked at Lily, still glowing in Sarah's arms, and her expression softened with love. He never expected her to manifest so early, or so powerfully. Morrison raised a weapon, not one of the silver dart guns, but something that looked like it had been designed specifically for supernatural targets. Stay back, or I'll. He never finished the threat. Dominic appeared behind him, his clothes torn and bloody but his eyes blazing with alpha power. You'll do nothing, he said quietly, and something in his voice made Morrison freeze like prey caught in a predator's gaze. Where's Marcus? Maya asked. Contained, Dominic replied grimly. The silver enhancements made him strong, but they also made him vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. Turns out our security system has some useful features. Elena was moving towards Sarah and Lily now, her hands glowing with a soft amber light that Maya recognized as healing power. The collar, she said, touching the silver band around Sarah's throat. Instead of burning her, the metal simply dissolved, crumbling away like ash. How? Maya breathed. Luna blood neutralizes silver, Elena explained, helping Sarah to her feet. It's why Derek needed to keep me alive, but also why he could never fully control me. She looked at Maya with profound sadness. And why the silver poisoning in your system will kill you unless we do something about it soon. Maya felt Dominic tense beside her. There has to be another way. There is, Elena said quietly. But it requires trust. Complete trust between mates and the willingness to share not just power, but essence itself. She gestured to the blood moon overhead, now fully eclipsed and glowing like a ruby against the star-filled sky. The eclipse amplifies all supernatural bonds. If you're willing to complete the Alpha Luna transformation now, together, Maya's humanity won't be lost. It will be merged with her wolf nature, making her stronger than either alone. The risks, Dominic started, are outweighed by the certainty of death if we do nothing, Elena interrupted. Maya has minutes, not hours. The silver is attacking her heart. As if summoned by her words, pain lanced through Maya's chest, sharp and burning. She gasped, doubling over as her body fought against the poison that had been slowly killing her for years. Maya. Dominic caught her as she collapsed, his hands blazing with healing warmth. I can't lose you. Not now, not when we've just found each other. Through the haze of pain, Maya saw the anguish in his eyes and felt their mate bond pulse with shared desperation. She thought about the choice she'd been avoiding. Accepting the Luna transformation meant giving up any chance of returning to her human life. But as she looked around at the people who had become her family, she realized she didn't want to return to that life. She wanted this one. The pack that had welcomed her, the man who loved her, the sister she would raise as her own daughter. "Do it," she whispered. "Maya." "Do it," she said more firmly, struggling to sit up despite the pain. "I choose this. I choose us." Elena smiled through her tears. "Then let's bring you home properly." What followed was unlike anything Maya could have imagined. With Elena's guidance, she and Dominic joined hands beneath the eclipse, allowing their bond to open completely. Power flowed between them like liquid fire, not the painful burn of silver but the warm strength of shared purpose. Maya felt her humanity merging with her wolf nature, each strengthening the other instead of fighting for dominance. Her wolf became more than instinct and strength, it gained human compassion and reasoning. Her human self became more than fragile flesh, it gained supernatural resilience and pack connection. When the transformation was complete, Maya opened her eyes to find herself changed but still herself. Still the woman who had boarded a plane in desperation, but now also the Luna who would protect her pack with everything she had. "How do you feel?" Dominic asked, his voice rough with emotion. Maya took inventory. The silver poisoning was gone, neutralized by her new Luna abilities. She could feel the pack bond connecting her to every member of their family, a warm network of belonging she'd never experienced. And underneath it all, the mate bond with Dominic hummed like music, strong and sure and permanent. "Like I'm finally home," she said honestly. Dawn was breaking over the mountains by the time the last of the hunters were dealt with. Most had fled when their silver weapons became useless and their enhanced werewolf turned against them. Derek Morrison had vanished in the chaos, but Maya wasn't worried. Whatever plans he'd had for the eclipse were ruined, and without Marcus or his father, his organization would struggle to mount another coordinated attack. Maya stood in the great hall of the pack house, Lily sleeping peacefully in her arms, her sister, she reminded herself, though the distinction felt less important than the love. Around her, the pack had gathered for an impromptu Luna ceremony, their amber eyes bright with acceptance and joy. "Maya Chen," Dominic said formally, though his love was evident in every word, "do you accept the responsibility of Luna to the Rocky Mountain Pack? Do you swear to protect both human and wolf, to bridge the worlds your bloodline spans, and to stand with your mate through whatever challenges come?" Maya looked around at the faces surrounding her, Sarah beaming with maternal pride, Elena glowing with health now that she was free, pack members she was still learning to know but already loved like family. This wasn't the life she'd planned when she boarded that red-eye flight to Denver. It was better. "I do," she said clearly. "Now and always." The pack's howl of acceptance echoed through the mountains, carrying the news that their Luna had finally come home. And as Dominic's arms came around her and Lily gurgled happily between them, Maya marveled at how love had found her in the most unexpected place, 30,000 feet above the ground, sitting next to a stranger who turned out to be her destiny. She'd thought she was running away from danger when she got on that plane. Instead, she'd been flying toward the rest of her life. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.